There are consequences to abusing Israel. There are blessings when we bless Israel. That's a simple Bible verse, and I'll get into that just a little bit later. I want to thank you for coming back. I've met so many of you during the lunch break that are from many points far and wide, Virginia, oh my goodness, all over. By the way, Minnesota winter begins in 3 days, so get out of town fast. Get out of Dodge real fast. I'm living proof you can survive wind chills at 70 below zero last winter. So that's what's going to begin here, a few days. Anyway, what I wanted to do for the next few minutes is look at how U.S. presidents, not all of them, but some in the recent, since about 1917, I'll explain that, have either blessed or cursed God's covenant land and people. And there indeed are consequences when that happens. Obviously, the nation, the church, the denomination, the conference, the individual, according to Genesis 12:3, who blesses that land and people will be blessed. And those who curse her, and throughout history, I'm going to show you what happens when, in fact, we do come against God's people. I happen to be starting with President Woodrow Wilson for a particular reason, and that is 1913, 1921, for those of you listening on CD rather than DVD. It was under his administration that really that little fledgling state of Israel was going to start to be born, because that was when the Balfour Declaration would come about. And his father instilled in him a great love for the Jews. And it was during his administration that these two people, James Balfour and Chaim Weizmann, were meeting to draw up that Balfour Declaration. Against all odds, President Woodrow Wilson went along with all of this. The Balfour Declaration, His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object. Now, obviously, there's going to be much turmoil that was going to come about because of this, but that's not my purpose today. But like Harry Truman, Woodrow Wilson was a Democrat who stood for the Jews. He was also relentless against anti-Semitism, and he said, "How proud I am that because of the teachings instilled in me by my father, it has been my privilege to restore the Holy Land to its rightful owners." So that was the beginnings of Zionism, the beginnings of that Jewish state, and the beginnings of America getting involved. Now, interestingly enough, he appointed a Jewish Supreme Court justice. Oh my goodness, the firestorm. Louis Brandeis back in 1916, Washington exploded. We can't have a Jew in this position of Supreme Court. And Woodrow Wilson stood by his pick of Mr. Brandeis. This hour we're playing my fall presentation back on October 4th, Understanding the Times, fall 2014. My message, U.S. Presidents and Israel, a blessing or a cursing. Of course, that's available in our conference CDs and DVDs, or now you can get it as a single DVD. And we do encourage the DVD because it's very visual. I'll say more about that. Let's get right back to the presentation. Okay, we're going to move on and skip the next two. I'll just touch on them very, very briefly. But Mr. Harding, President Harding, was only in office a couple of years, and he did not really want to get involved with the Jewish people. And here's the important thing, is now immigration issues entered the picture. And also, another thing that was going to enter the picture was rabid anti-Semitism in America. And it was mainly perpetrated, at least it was initiated. Obviously, this devil has been stirring this up since the beginning of time. But in the case of the 1920s, it was Henry Ford, his Dearborn Independent, and he kept insisting that the world's entire problems were because of the dominance of the Jewish people. And he launched a vicious attack against them. And even Calvin Coolidge said, "I don't want to get involved." He didn't get involved. Coolidge, again, he dealt with immigration issues, which made the entry of Jews into America next to impossible, other than a few thousand who could get in. But this next gentleman was going to be a little bit different. Obviously, his administration is marred by the Depression, but nonetheless, he's the first Quaker to become president of the United States, and he was an ardent supporter of Israel. Now, as I talk about these men, none of them are perfect. None of us are perfect. Their administration administrations, and I'm not looking at their administrations necessarily. The Democrat, Republican, yes, but that's not my purpose, is to highlight liberal, conservative at all. But it is to focus in on how they perceived this little blossoming state of Israel. And did we come alongside, or did we neglect? And we'll see more and more. A lot of them neglected, we'll see here as we move along.